Big mabuhay around the world, and welcome back to All Things Filipino. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, and of course your views. And if you haven't subscribed already, please hit that button. Today we're going to cover a topic we all know to be true. Why Filipinos are the happiest people in the world. And I can speak from experience. Let's go to the video.
It's not surprising that we, Filipinos, are among the happiest people on earth. In 2017, Gallup's annual Global End of the Year survey proved the Philippines is the third happiest country in the world. Fiji and Colombia ranked first and second respectively. Philippines has a net score of plus 84, Fiji got a net score of plus 92, while Colombia got plus 87. A data gathered from 53,769 respondents. In the past year, natural disaster hit us hard. A war with Islamic extremists and political intrigues racked us, but Filipinos are quick to smile and laugh. Malacanang was pleased with this news, for it shows the resiliency of Filipino people amidst natural and man-made difficulties. So don't be surprised to see smiling people in the streets as they go about their daily lives. No matter what happens, life will still go on for Filipinos.
And I can speak from personal experience because I've worked with lots of Filipinos and I'm married to a Filipina. And most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, the Filipinos are the happiest people I've ever worked or lived with. I mean, things can be bad, the weather can be bad, anything can be bad, and they come in smiling, and you're like, why are you smiling? And they're just like, we're just glad to be here. How are you doing? And that's what really makes them such a joy, not only to be married to, but to work with, because they just come with a great attitude, especially if they're a coworker. And I've worked with Filipinos, and they're just fabulous people. They ask you how you're doing and what's going on. They ask you about your family. And for holidays, of course, you get food, you get gifts, you get invited over to the house. So what's not to like? But I think what the guy said there is really, really true, that life goes on. And of course, it hasn't been, easy in the Philippines over the last couple of years. But the Filipino people have really, a great spirit and a boundless energy. And they refuse to let defeatism and negativity control them. Now, of course, they're not happy all the time, but they will overcome. We have an expression in the U.S., grin and bear it. And so what that really means is, no matter what, smile and just deal with it. And I know, life in the Philippines isn't always easy, especially, my wife was telling me about the typhoons, and, it was always flooding where she lived. And they had to walk to school, across, these flooding rivers. And I even remember that video where they showed, this was a couple of years ago, where they showed the kids, going, like swimming to school. And so, this is the Filipino spirit, that we will overcome. We will do it. In America, we call that a can-do attitude. And I've seen that. I've worked with Filipinos. No matter what happens, instead of getting angry or whatever, they'll try to pull together. They'll try to say, hey, I know that person. Let's talk to them. Or, hey, let's get this going. And that is so important. And we see that. My wife who grew up, she said, we just keep going on because we have no other alternative and we might as well enjoy it. And so you see them, whatever Filipinos can do to make their lives happier, they do. And so they'll perform, they'll sing karaoke, they'll smile, and they'll make contact with their neighbors. And I think that's so important. When they come to the U.S., the U.S. doesn't have, the same sort of welcoming culture. In some places, we still do. The Midwest is a little friendlier and places like that. But, when I grew up, things were a little bit different in the U.S. And you could go to your neighbor. My wife's always saying, we can't go to our neighbors to borrow things like sugar and milk. And when we were younger, that was kind of normal. Especially, more towards, the city or something like that. But now it's, people don't really talk as much. But in the Philippines, they still do. People know each other. They know you by your first name. But, when you meet older people in the U.S., they also sort of are a little sad because that kind of attitude is gone. You used to know your neighbor's name, but it's kind of changing. But in the Philippines, you still do. It's kind of considered rude if you don't know your neighbors. And so you'll go over and meet them and talk to them and share, hellos at the end of the day. And if you're lucky, you get to be really close friends. So I remember like talking to my wife, and she would come home from work and go right over to her friend's house all the time. All the time. I mean, where's my wife? Where is she? And she's over at her friend's house, and they would be over there. And it's kind of like, it's a great thing because it helps you talk about your problems, the things you love the most, the things that are the greatest triumph for you, and of course, when you need your friends, your neighbors, they're there for you. So, like when my wife was getting our wedding ready. I mean, she had all these things to do, and of course, in Manila especially, it's so hard. It's like, how do you get here? How do you get there? You have to depend on your relatives and your neighbors and your friends to pull this off. And we only had 2 months. In the U.S., that's still a little bit time for a wedding. It's not enough time, but, I didn't realize how difficult. She was like going to wedding planners, wedding events, and then going to different places, trying the food, trying the bake, all these different things, And, she pulled it off. Her friend prepared the invitations and tied everything, the little bows and everything on everything, got them ready, passed out the invitations, and her family got her ready, helped her with her wedding dress, all these little things, And, because I worked with a lot of Filipinos, it's the same thing. They'll come in, how are you? How you doing? What's going on? And they're willing to listen. They're willing to share your triumphs and your little burdens. And that's what makes Filipinos not only the happiest, but some of the greatest, friends and wives, I would say, in the world. And I know in this survey they say third. I don't know the other countries, but I can say, in my opinion, the Filipinos are number one. They are the number happiest people in the world. And of course, like I said, they have things to overcome, but they do it with a smile. They do it with grace and dignity. And they don't let, their hardships overcome their souls and overcome their daily lives. They get beyond that, and they're able to sort of, take pleasure in those things that they can laugh and be happy at. They don't dwell on the negative and the bad things that are happening to them, and they just overcome. And that's what's so enjoyable when you go to the Philippines and you meet Filipinos, and of course, when you marry a Filipina and you work with Filipinos, that's the kind of attitude you have. And that's what makes them the happiest people in the world. When you always greet them, they'll always have a smile on their face. Now, when they don't, that means something's pretty bad, and you have to kind of figure that out. But most of the time, they are just the happiest, go-lucky people that you can imagine. And they want to share that with you. They want to make that part of your life, add that little sunshine to what you have. And that is just a remarkable, remarkable thing. And like I said, I worked with Filipinos for about 4 or 5 years. And I also, been married for, quite a long time, about 12 years, going on 13 years. And of course, this really helps you when you're going in tough spots, because that there'll be someone there to listen to you, but also smile with you. And of course, for the holidays, and I can't wait to spend my first Filipino Christmas, and, in the U.S., it used to be such a joyous time. It used to be such a big deal. And it's kind of lost its, its spirit a little bit. But in the Philippines, I know the whole country goes crazy, and they start getting ready in September. And that is something I can't wait to see, because that is also one of the reasons Filipinos are one of the happiest people in the world, is because they celebrate their holidays to the max, to the fullest. And the food, my wife would organize their family's, Christmas celebration at the house, and she'd spend all this money. And I'd be like, why are we spending all this money? Because we have to, because everyone's going to come. And she would get, not just all the gifts and not all of the food, but everything. And of course, the godchildren come over, and you have to have gifts for them. Everyone celebrates and the holidays, and that's what also I think makes Filipinos really, really happy, especially around Christmas time. And I just can't wait to really get ready for that holiday myself, and celebrate it with that too, and see all the celebrations. And I think also too that there are fiestas too, throughout the Philippines and various parts of the year. And I think that contributes to the happiness as well. But I think it's also because deep down inside the Filipino heart, they want to be happy. And they enjoy being happy, and they enjoy smiling, and they enjoy getting together. And you can just see people who do not have a lot of money, and things are kind of hard, and you can just see them singing karaoke on their front steps, and they're smiling and laughing, and they're sharing their joy and their happiness. And that, to me, is the key to Filipino happiness and Filipino culture. The sharing of that happiness and the sharing of the joy, and taking an interest in everything that goes on around you. Not sort of putting on blinders or ignoring people. You'll see that maybe in other countries where, people will ignore you when you're walking in stores. And you see this a lot nowadays, where people are not going to pay attention. When you walk into a Filipino store or walk up to a vendor or even in the street, people will smile. And it just melts your heart. It just makes you feel good to be there and to be talking with them. And, of course, they're not having the best day or whatever, but they want to make you happy. They want to make you feel great. And, of course, they want to provide great service. And that's the difference. In the U.S., we order a lot of things online, and it's convenient and things like that. But it doesn't really feel the same. When I was a kid, you used to have people... salespeople help you with stuff. Now it's like a DIY project. You got to do everything yourself. And there isn't that joy when you're dealing with the salesperson that can pick out the right thing for you. And somebody that you've known, for years and years go, no, I know the product for you. Or when you go to a vendor or somebody like that, and they know you for years. I know, I got this ready for you. I got it. And they smile, Or when your neighbor smiles at you, or when you're walking down the street. And all these things contribute. It's a cultural phenomenon. And not just in the Philippines, but wherever you go, when they have eyeballs, they will connect with each other. And that's something I don't really see with other cultures. Wherever we move, wherever we go, my wife has a built-in support group. Hey, let's go out. Let's have an eyeball. Hey, let's meet. Let's go over to your house. And then... maybe you only met once or twice, and they'll send you a gift out of nowhere. It'll come in the mail and say, "Did you get my gift?" And we're like, "Yeah." Oh, wow. And it'll be an amazing gift, a really nice gift. And you're like, I didn't really know that person. They want to spread the joy. They want to spread, what is happening. And it really makes them feel great, and really, really makes the culture a great thing. And so, I can understand why Filipinos are the happiest people. The survey, I think, is wrong. I think they're number one. I don't mean to upset anyone from the other countries, Fiji and Colombia, but I think the Philippines is number one. So stay happy out there. Keep smiling, right? Keep smiling, and have a great day. And peace out. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to All Things Filipino. Have a great day. See you later.